Hello, hello. Welcome to Sis Let's Talk Leadership. My name is Kristi Burns.
And I'm Meliza Walsh.
And this is where we unmask the myths.
And we own the journey.
And today we have a special guest, drumroll, Miss Tacoma Perry, who is a dear friend of mine, but also one who has held many hats. Hence, our topic tonight is work, life, and the pivot in between. How you thought I was about to say balance, but the pivot in between. So before we get started, we're going to let Tacoma introduce herself, tell us a little bit about herself, and then we'll just dive into it as we always do.
Oh my gosh, thanks so much for you guys for having me. My name is Tacoma, and currently I am an IT clinical trainer with a national nephrology company. But I have worn a lot of hats, but the hat I think I love the most is I am a woman who is married. I do have 4 children, 3 in the home. And I am figuring it out day by day. So, Kristi, you touched on all the hats I've worn. Right now, my current business hat is in EHR implementations and software training, but I've done it all.
Literally, she's done it all. I mean, I think I've told you this, Tacoma, but I admire you. I admire your, I would like to use the word hustle, but it's not hustle in a sense of
getting over
that you have. It's the work ethic that you have, how you pick up on things super quickly, how a pivot for you is just, I don't know, it comes with ease, or at least you make it look that way. So we're going to dive right into that with the topic being work, life, and the pivot in between. Let's talk about maybe a pivot that you've made since you have held many hats. What did that pivot look like? And I guess how did it make you feel? Well, like what did you do?
Think the first pivot I can think of was in college. You know how you go to college and you're thinking, I'm going to be this major. And then when you realize that's not going to happen, you're like, well, what will I do now? And I think I went to college thinking I was going to be an athletic trainer. I actually ran track. I liked sports. I like being around sports in a sense. So an athletic trainer was probably like the closest thing I think I could give my grandparents and my parents to being a doctor, So I was like, I'm going to go and I'm going to be an athletic trainer. I went to Indiana University, and that first class that I had to take for a prerequisite for my major, they were like, okay, we're going to memorize every muscle in the body. And I was like, oh, I don't think this is going to happen for me. I don't think I can do it. I was just like, yeah, no. And that's when I was like, oh my gosh, I had taken a lot of prerequisites, sports management, like all these prerequisites. And then I get into like my sophomore, almost into my junior year, and I realized this is not the major for me. Like I've got to figure something else out. And that's when I went into public affairs. Public affairs prepares you for a life in government. So that was my first pivot. And I think when you pivot, you just have to gather what was and try to figure out what will be, what you can do next. So you kind of gather like, okay, well, this is what I've done. And like, just like in college, you go over your course list. You're like, okay, well, I can keep this translates into another major. This translates to, okay, so what's a major that is the closest, so I won't have to start college all over again as a freshman. And I've been here 2.5, almost 3 years.
Yeah.
And public affairs was the answer for me. So it was just like, okay, I can do public affairs. Government, my family had always been in government. My grandfather had even ran for an elected office in Indiana, where I'm from. So I'm like, okay, that's a nice little adjacent kind of career. And so that was my first pivot. I went into public affairs, and out of college, I was a DC intern. I went to DC and lived and worked in a nonprofit called Corporation for National Service. That was my second pivot. Because I went into that office and I was like, oh my gosh, I was going in every day. And that was your first little, your internship is your first little taste of what it will be like in the real world. And so I go, and that's why I always advise internships, apprenticeships, whatever it is that can give you a taste of what you will be doing. And I was going into that office, and I was in that office all day. And I was like, oh, this is what being an adult is like. This is what being in government. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to do this. And let me tell you, I was like, I'm not going to be able to do it. It's like, you have to know yourself. And I think even at 20-something, I think I've always been like that. I'd like to think as I get older, I'm less tolerant of things that I just know don't fit me. But I think I've always been that way. No, I'm not going to be able to do this. Let's find something else. And that's when the CEO of the Corporation for National Service happened to be Indiana University grad. That year, he took all the IU alumni or students out for lunch. I happened to be the only one that year. We went to lunch one-on-one. He said, tell me about yourself. I told him a little bit about myself. How's it going? I lied and was like, oh, it's going great, knowing that I was in literal hell every day going to that office. It was just like, yeah, I can't do this. But he said, well, if you had it to do all over again, what would you do? And I thought, and I said words that I had never spoken aloud. It was like, I don't know if it was just an unctioning or I had never spoken these words before, never pursued this at all. I said, well, if I had it to do all over again, I'd be a TV reporter. And he was like, oh, I could definitely see you doing that. He was like, when you go back to Indiana, I have a friend who is the, president of the PBS station. I'll get you an internship. And that's where things kind of started for me in my TV career. And it all came from a simple question that someone asked. So, I mean, I feel like I'm talking on and on and on.
No, this is good. We want another pivots.
Then I go back to Indianapolis. I go do my PBS internship that he got for me. And it was nothing at all like I thought it was going to be. I thought I was going to be a reporter out on the street. I was in a basement creating what they call underwriting spots. So if you watch Sesame Street, if you watch anything on PBS, it says, this has been underwritten by, and then there's a little horrible commercial that comes on. Well, I created those commercials and I had no contact with any other human being most of the day. So I was just like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to do this either. I can't do it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I go home to Fort Wayne, Indiana, where I'm from. And, my grandparents are like, my mom lives there. I buy the house next door to my mom. So I'm not living with my mom. I'm living next door. I'm living, a mile away from my grandparents. So I'm having a lot of good family time. And I can tell that my grandfather could see me like floundering. I decided to enroll in the master's program. So I'm going to school to get my master's at the local college. I'm also working in a nonprofit after school program where I'm teaching kids how to read. So I'm doing a little bit, but they were just like, man, you were supposed to do something big with that little college degree you got.
Yeah.
And so one day, my grandmother, her best friend happened to be the mother of a singer called, her name is Heather Headley. I don't know if you ever heard of her, but she was big on Broadway. She's still she's big, but her mother was my grandmother's best friend. And so she was like, well, Heather needs somebody to go out on the road with her. She's launching her first CD, do that, And so I did that for a summer and that was fun. I did it for a summer, but then I got dropped off right when that little tour was over. I got dropped off right back in Fort Wayne where I was. And so my grandfather got me a job at Allen County Community Corrections. And that is a correctional facility. It's a day reporting center. So when you are out on either probation or fresh out of jail, you have to report. If you don't have a job, you need to report to this day reporting center where you will learn skills to be able to keep a job skills. And I was the job academy teacher. And so I would teach inmates basically how to get work, retain work. That was probably one of the funnest times of my life. I had a great time doing that. I got to be around a lot of people. There were people I went to high school with that was fresh out of jail, and I was their job academy teacher. It was surreal a lot of times.
Yeah.
Hey, friend. My grandfather had a long career as the chaplain of the jail. So he knew all he knew was jailbirds. We said, if you know my grandfather, you either been in jail, oh, you fresh out.
You fresh out. Okay.
Yeah. So, I got to see a lot of people that knew my grandfather. And so that was a good time. I was still going to school. I had become a TA to help pay for my master's. So I was teaching classes. And then my grandfather, he invited me to lunch one day and said, hey, I'm going to lunch with a guy named Steve Shine. Steve Shine was head of the Republican Party in Fort Wayne. He was also a part-time news anchor. Okay. So remember, I told the guy in D.C.
Yep, you wanted to be
a TV reporter.
Yep.
That didn't work out like I thought it was going to work out. But I'm going to lunch, and I'm at lunch. My grandfather is he's also he was a lawyer. He was head of the Republican Party. He was a lawyer. He was a part-time news anchor. He was doing it all. So he was my grandfather's lawyer. We go out to lunch. He's explaining some things to my grandfather. I'm kind of translating and helping my grandfather understand what he's being told. I'm also translating my grandfather's point of view to this lawyer. He just turned to me and said, what do you do? Who are you? Like, what? You're amazing. I said, well, Right now I work at the Allen County Community Corrections. I took the job academy. And he said, okay, is that what you want to do? And I said, well, I kind of always wanted to do what you do, be on the TV, be a news reporter. He said, I'll never forget these words. I've never heard anyone speak these words out loud. But he said, I have a lot of pull in this town. I can know exactly who to call. I can make that happen for you. And I was like, what? The very next day, I get a call from him. He said, go to Channel 21. Don Bradley was the news director. He said, I got you a PA, which is a production assistant, a PA job at Allen County, or not Allen County, WPTA, which is our ABC affiliate. And from there, I, worked. I still kept my job at the community corrections. I was going to school to get my master's in communication. I was teaching undergraduate classes. And I was actually going to the news station every morning, and I ran teleprompter for the morning show.
Mm-hmm.
So while there, and I was trying to do it all, so I would fall asleep at the teleprompter. So when you fall asleep at the teleprompter, the anchors can't read. They're having to wake up so I can get the next line. So it was hilarious. They hated me, but I went to the news director. I said, hey, do you mind if I go out with some of the reporters, see what they do? He let me. A couple months later, I asked him, hey, do you mind if I put a package together? A package is what we call a news story. Okay. And you give me some tips on it, see how that goes. He let me do it. A couple months later, I said, well, can you call me if someone calls in sick and let me fill in? He did. So I started filling in for the on-air reporters. And then about 6 months in, one of the reporters was leaving for another market, and I got that job. So that's how I became a TV reporter, basically.
Mm.
Yeah. So that is another pivot. I did that for a few years. And Kristi, we met in Atlanta. I was a reporter. I, worked in Columbus. I left Fort Wayne. I went to Columbus, Ohio, worked at NBC4 as a reporter, and then got the job in Atlanta at Fox 5 as a reporter. And I did that until I got married. I did it for a while after being married. After I had my first child, that's when another pivot came. I came home one day. Now I've already had one child. I'm pregnant with another. All right. I'm still a reporter. We had a nanny that would come in and watch the baby while my husband worked. I worked. I would come home at noon because I worked the morning show. And then the nanny would let me sleep until she left at 5. And then I would wake up, cook dinner, and then my husband would be home by then to kind of take the baby so I can go to sleep. Well, one day I come home and I've been noticing her and the nanny, my oldest Trinity and the nanny were getting really close, And I love that relationship. We love Lola. We loved her. Mm-hmm. One day, Lola spoke Spanish, and so she was speaking to Trinity in Spanish. And one day I was trying to be down with the girls, and I'm trying to speak my Spanish too. And one day Trinity looked at Lola. I said something wrong. Trinity looked at Lola, and they laughed at me. And I was like, so this is your mother, not me.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized, oh my gosh, I don't think I can do this. I'm like, I want to raise my own child.
Yeah.
It wasn't about Lola. It was just like, I am losing this part of life. This is not sustainable.
Yeah.
I can't just come home, see my daughter for a couple hours after I wake up from a nap, only to put her in bed again while I get some sleep so I can get up and work again. So that's when that pivot came. And after my second child, I did not go back to reporting. And I was a stay-at-home mom for about 5 years. And so that was a pivot. I know y'all are like, oh, wow, this is a long,
good. This is perfect.
Yeah, this is good.
A lot of pivots. In the meantime, I've had another child. So now I have 3 young children at home. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and things are going pretty good. Things are not going bad, but I can't say that I didn't feel useless at times. My husband, his world never stopped. Mm-hmm. I would have a baby on a Friday. He'd be back at work on Monday, and I'm left at home with the wreckage and all of the, And so after a while, when my third one was born, I was just like, I want to work again. But I do need to do something that works from home, because I'd already realized that going to work out in the world full time with these children, I knew I would eventually be unhappy if I had to do that. So I found, thanks to your husband, that was the part of my last main pivot. Kristi's husband told me about an industry that he really thought I would, do well in, and that was software training. He said, you can do it. You work from home. And I investigated a little bit more, and I was able to to get a job as an electronic medical record trainer. And I've been doing that ever since in various capacities. So that's where I am. I get to work from home. I still pick my children up from school every day. I take them to school. I can, take off when I need to. It's very different from any other job I've had in terms of flexibility, but it's probably been the best for where I am right now in life. So that catches you up. That's all my pivots.
That is good.
Yeah, that's all my pivots.
That was good. That was and some very some good pivots that I don't think people have even heard of, to be honest with you. And to see the journey and kind of like where it started so young, because before you got to the point of saying that you had children, I was going to interrupt and say, well, when did the children come into play? Because I wanted to see what the work and balance came in with those particular pivots. But then you got to that point and you had done so much before even having the first child. You had so many pivots before then.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say with the work-life balance, I think that it doesn't necessarily have to you don't necessarily have to have children to realize, yeah, this is not for me.
Yeah.
I'm not doing well right now in life.
Right.
I'm not where I want to be. I mean, that realization, as you can see, each pivot, it was just kind of like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to do this. I didn't even have children. So I didn't have children. I got married later in life. We started out, in my 20s, with my career. And then I didn't even get married until I was in my, fourth career with the reporting. I was 33. I didn't have my first child till 36. Work-life balance doesn't always mean for a woman. I think anybody can look at their life and just say, am I living the life I want to live? And you might have to make some adjustments. In today's world, I tell my children this all the time. You can do anything you want to do. Just you're gonna have to adjust that lifestyle. So if you don't want to work this or you don't want to do this, just adjust that lifestyle. You may not be able to do what everybody else does. And so when you go through your life and you're looking and weighing what you can and can't do and there's some sacrifices that'll be made. But it will be worth it in the end, because you'll be happy knowing this feels better. This feels right,
Yeah.
And that's what I'm looking for in any kind of career. It's just like, what does this feel like? Does it allow me to do the things that I want to do?
And does it allow you to stay true to who you are? I think that's the question that I was kind of like leading to, is in every pivot that you had, like you said, you knew exactly when to end it. And from what I'm hearing, at least, and you can correct this if this is wrong, but you did not lose your identity.
Yeah.
And
it didn't feel that way at that time. I felt like I lost my identity when I was a stay-at-home. You definitely feel it.
Yeah, the children came into play. Yeah.
The children come into play because everything becomes about them. And you do have to, I think as women, we are forced to make some really hard choices. Whether we are going to, go all out in one area or the other. There's a famous CEO who's been making a lot of noise lately in the fact that she says, I spend 3 hours with my kids, or an hour a day or something really, she's all in on being that CEO, and that works for her.
Yeah.
That wouldn't work for me. So but I don't have what she has. And so, I've made some sacrifices monetarily, I'm sure. I've made some sacrifices, but it looks like what I want it to look like.
Exactly. And that's good that you said that, because I feel like a lot of our listeners may be struggling with that identity portion. They may be struggling with fear of pivoting, not being able to step out on faith, not recognizing when it's time to not be complacent, not just settle, go for what you really want, even if you are like, there's no age limit to it.
It's not.
And people
really isn't.
put an age to it.
It's a transition. It's not a starting over. I didn't have to start over any of these. I never started over, I don't think. I don't think I started over. I was just kind of like transferring the skills that I had been using all this time. There is all of the skills that I've used in each career have really pretty much been the same. Communication, teaching. I was when I worked, my first job out of college was, ironically enough, I worked in a new mothers program called Healthy Families in Indiana, where I taught new mothers how to, be successful, this first few years and teaching them what they should do with a child and what they shouldn't do with the child. And I, of course, I'm 20 and childless, but I've been doing some level of communication and teaching and trust building my entire life.
Mhm.
And so it's, pivoting is not starting over. It's continuing and transferring and transitioning. That's all it is. It's a continuance. And I think that's what people really should think of it as.
Yeah, that's
I think
good.
it's also exploring though, Tacoma, like when you were talking about all of your experience, it seemed that at the time that's really what you wanted. And that was the version of yourself that existed in that moment, right? And I think that as you got to know yourself better, as you learned yourself better, you didn't rob yourself of the opportunity to try something that you thought might be you. And then you tried it on for size and you're like, it's actually not. So I really love when you said, oh, I can't do this. And I think that as someone that now has lived all these experiences, would you say that you would change that wording to that's not where my heart lives?
Yeah.
That's not really the beat of my heart.
That is a really good point. And it changes. It's always changing. It's always changing because we're changing. What we thought we would do at 20 is not what we want to do at 30.
Yep.
And it's just like, it's like that with I always say it with spouses. I don't think anybody should get married before, 30, because who you would pick 20 is not who you would pick at 30. Who you would
Facts.
pick at 30 is not who you pick at 60. So
Yeah.
it's like, you're right, Melissa. It's like you're honoring the version of yourself that is looking back at you in the mirror. That's the version you owe anything to.
Mm.
You don't have to worry about what's past or what's coming up ahead. Just honor who you are right now, and you'll be fine. And give yourself room to change because it will change.
Yeah.
It's gonna change. You can't help but change. I think once my children came along, I never thought I would be. I was supposed to be a big time reporter in the #1 market in the country. I was going to be a big time reporter in New York or a big time
By
anchor
the
in New
way,
York.
she was a local celebrity, so
No,
don't fool you. Don't let her fool you. But
please.
yeah.
But that's what I saw for myself. But once I got married and had children, it was just like, I could care less about that fire
Yeah. Yeah.
or
That's
that
true.
house burning down or whatever it is they talking about politically. I don't care.
Mhm.
I
Isn't
don't
that
care. I want to get
crazy?
home to my child. I want to get home to my child. I want to
My
be with
child.
my
Yeah.
husband. And
Yeah.
I
Well,
also
and
want
you're
to say, I'm sorry.
no, it's okay.
I do have to acknowledge that I did have room, especially after marriage, because I had a stable partner. I think, if I was a single mother, things may have pivoted differently. I'm not saying you shouldn't pivot I'm absolutely saying you should pivot as a single mother. But what I'm saying is I know that I had a lot more wiggle room because I had a stable partner.
Mhm.
This is a person, my husband, he's worked the same job for 15 years. He ain't going nowhere. He's stability. And I'm not, I'll wake up one morning and like, yeah, I can't do this. He would never wake up and say that. So I do want to acknowledge that. My situation, is just a little different. And I didn't have children when I was younger making those pivots.
Yeah.
You do have to move differently when you have children.
When someone else's life depends on you.
Yes.
That makes a huge difference. I think it ties into something that we've talked about before as well is alignment. It's super important, work-life balance versus actually being aligned. So do you feel that there's a difference between the two? Because I feel like people would use those terms interchangeably and they're technically not to be used interchangeably. What would you say with that?
I definitely think alignment is so key. And I think you're right. Because I think that balance is a myth uh, to some,
Mhm.
because I don't know anyone that can balance means you got the same over here as you do over here. And I just don't
Mhm.
know. There is some every day I'm picking which is more important and
Yep.
which is going up here. Some days I'm home cooking, some days it's McDonald's. So, it's not always, you know what I'm saying? So it's like that doesn't make, but the alignment is there. You know what I'm saying? Where it is firing off on all cylinders. We cooking with grease. But balance, I think I don't know that is the goal for me because something's always going to be off balance.
Mhm.
Something's always going to be off balance. And I think you have to be okay with that.
Mhm.
I think you have
It's
to be
like,
okay with that.
yeah,
I
I was
think
just
it's
having a
also
conversation with Alex too about that.
Yeah.
Mhm. Go ahead, Melissa.
I think no, I was just gonna share, like, I love that you brought up alignment, because alignment ties deep rooted into our values, right? Like, and I think that's the alignment we're looking for. But I do agree that I don't think I've ever had true balance in my life.
Right?
In anything that I've done. And something I've shared with new and upcoming leaders is it's like when they're taking that next step into leadership and they haven't done it before, and they're like, well, I feel like I'm really failing at home. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure you are, because you're here.
Yeah.
You're at work, you're rounding, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're committed to this project, you're completing this thing. And in anything that we do, you have to understand that you're not going to come in it without sacrificing anything. You just have to be okay with what you will sacrifice for what you're doing.
And
You
every
have to
area
weigh
just
those
can't get
things.
equal attention.
Yeah.
Every area just can't.
Yeah.
Every area
All
cannot
of
get
it can't be 100.
every.
It doesn't work that way.
We
No,
will fall asleep at the teleprompter.
exactly. Exactly.
We absolutely will.
My gosh,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm never going to claim to do it all. I don't do it all. I do some of it, some of the time.
Yeah.
And the rest of it, the other times. It's like
Mhm.
that's just how it is.
Yeah. And I think that ties into as well, like exhaustion. Like you can be exhausted from doing what you love, but there's a different kind of exhaustion that comes from being misaligned
My
with
God.
what you're doing, because it becomes everything's like overwhelming. Like, but majority of the time it's based off of things that we've chosen to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So being able to kind of sit back, reflect, and say, okay, I am sacrificing, but as you stated earlier, to what degree do I want to sacrifice here, and what does that look like? Because exhaustion is going to be based off of what we kind of put on ourselves, and
Yes.
that can come from being misaligned in what we're doing.
So true. So true. So true.
Tacoma, I have a question for you. When you were pivoting, it almost seemed like you were ready for moving on to like let go of what was and what you had worked for, and you were ready for something else, something different. How would you tell people that maybe struggle with that to navigate it from your perspective, from someone that feels very, I don't want to assume that you're very comfortable, but someone that says, no, this is not for me anymore. I'm going to move on, even though I worked hard to get this over here that I really wanted, but it's just not serving me well.
Like that, faith has to really play a part, because there is always a mourning period. When I
Yes.
let go of being a reporter, there was
Yes.
large mourning period. And I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to be like, well, I was
Yeah.
ready. No, because that was part of my identity.
Yeah.
So there's a mourning period, I think, when you're letting go of something that you always knew to be, and
Mhm.
you always thought would be.
Mm.
But the faith comes in where, when I was a little girl, I made a pact with God. God, if it ain't for me, don't let me get it. Don't let it happen. I don't want to be thinking, should I go here? Should I go here? I don't want that. I don't want that responsibility. Make it happen if it's supposed to happen. If it ain't supposed to happen, block it. And I know there are specific times in my life where I got no's and I got blocked, and I was just like, oh man, so disappointed. Then I remember, now that's the agreement that I had with God, and He's honoring that agreement. So I think there's always a mourning period. There will be a time of trepidation and wondering what is next and what will happen. But that faith has to come in, because you don't know what. You don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we can't help but talk about God when it comes to
yeah.
leadership in these topics, because He's super crucial in the decisions that we make, how specific we are in our prayers and what we want, and what we think we want, I guess sometimes as well, versus what He feels is best for us. And so it's really great that you brought that up in reference to faith, because it's needed. It's needed for every avenue. Sometimes we take ourselves down these, because sometimes He will allow things to happen based on decisions that we made.
Yeah.
And so if we're asking Him to block it and He blocks it, then we have
We
to be
can't.
okay with that, because
You gotta be
that's what you
okay.
prayed for,
Yep.
you know.
Yep. Gotta
Um,
be okay with it.
yeah. There was something that you said earlier in reference to using the gifts that you had, and how even though you made multiple pivots, communication was a common denominator in all the things that you did. So do you think that people sometimes, underestimate how transferable their gifts actually are
Let me tell you
when they're
something.
making a pivot?
I feel, and I will die on this hill, soft skills are more
Mhm.
important than any degree you have,
Mhm.
technical skills
Yep.
you have. Do you know
Yes.
that I know I only have a job because I work in a high-tech industry,
Mhm.
but I only get paid what I get paid because I can talk.
Mhm.
I can speak. I can't tell you how many programmers or heads of
That's true, though.
tech, CIOs, that I don't understand a word they're saying, or I can't hear them, or they don't even have the it's like, what do you, huh? They don't have emotional intelligence.
Mm.
Mm.
So your transferable skills are usually soft skills. Think about it.
Mhm.
All of the skills that can be used in any industry, that's a soft skill. That's
Mhm.
emotional intelligence. That's
Mhm.
communication style. That's
Mhm.
getting along with others, being a team player, knowing how to lead. These are all soft skills.
Mhm.
Okay. That's not knowing a specific software type. You can get a certification in C++ and you have your internet security license and all that. But if you cannot speak and translate what you know to others,
Yeah.
you're not going to do well.
No.
You're not gonna do well. So that's why I'm drilling to my children, you gotta be able to speak.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Can't speak. Public speaking should be required in schools.
It really should.
It
It
used to
really is.
be. Do you remember that?
I
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah.
It
I
used to
remember
be, like, for
speaking
my
was an
I
undergrad, it
think
actual,
was
in
a
like
college, I don't think
requirement.
it was mandatory for me, but I definitely remember taking public
yes,
speaking
yeah.
in college. But you're right. We just had this conversation the other day about how public speaking, Toastmasters, other community, things people should be involved in because like you said, we didn't attach it to soft skills at the time, but you're exactly right. Like it is a soft skill and you have to be able to know how to speak.
Gotta be able
And
to know how to
starting young is the
yes.
key.
Mhm.
Yes,
Starting young is the
and be able
key.
to speak in front of a crowd. Some people
Okay.
can, you like, they're one-on-one, but they can't, they get nervous and, and not that
Uh,
you get nervous speaking in front of a crowd, but the fact that it's debilitating where they can't do it.
yeah.
Panic
Yeah.
attacks are happening.
Yeah.
And it's like, it really is so important. Soft skills are the most important because I have talked my way through each of these jobs, all these
Mhm.
industries I walked you through, I talked my way through 'em.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I talk my way
Yeah.
from not knowing, never even worked in healthcare before to now having the position I have in healthcare. That's not because I knew a special technical skill.
Mhm.
It's because I learned a technical skill and then I was able to communicate that skill to
Mhm.
others. And to relate to people on all levels, you got to
All
be
of
able, and I use that in reporting.
Mhm.
You know, I have to go and speak to the governor, but I also got to speak to the mother who just lost their child. You've
Yeah.
got to be able to speak to people at every level and where they are. And I think
Mhm.
that is something that we are missing. And we're definitely not going to get there by being on our phones. Our kids are, we're
Mhm.
service. They're always on their phones. They're always, you know, or they're performing for TikTok. And
Yeah.
that's fine. You know what I'm saying? But it's not, there needs to, that's got to translate into some confidence that they can use in every area of their life. So,
Yes.
we've got to, um, teach our kids that I would say communication is the thread. That's my zone of genius. I can relate to, C-suite and I can relate to in anything in between. And I
Mhm.
think that has taken me further than any other technical skill that I've had. Cuz people will they'll make up the difference for you for other things if they can relate to you and they can speak to you and you can speak to them.
Yeah.
They'll
Yeah.
forgive everything else.
Yeah. And then utilizing it to what you just basically said in any environment. Like I always used to say, like, I'm not going to bypass EVS just because they're EVS. Like I'm going to speak to every single person. I'm going to interact. I'm going to make it an intentional point to have a conversation with these individuals
Yeah.
which ties into the leadership portion, but it's just making people feel seen, feel heard, and things of that nature and adapting to the environment in which you do. Being
Yeah.
able to be diverse and
Be
meet
diverse.
people
That's so true.
where they are. So that's good. So this is
Yeah.
good stuff. This is good stuff. Yeah.
Girl, you just took off. You
Listen,
went right into it.
Yeah.
Maybe podcasting is a good pivot for you
Yeah.
listen.
too.
No,
No, I think it so thank you for demonstrating how that is, even if it looks different for everybody. It's just, don't don't stifle yourself out of fear that you might fail, but rather encourage yourself and inspire yourself to do something that you love because you might learn from whatever comes of it, even if that's not the right fit for you.
That's so
Right.
true. That's so true.
It's
Don't be
basically getting
afraid.
out of your own way.
Yeah, get out of your
Yeah.
own way.
Yes.
And it'll take a humbling. I had to be humble at each of these positions
Mhm.
because I'm coming in maybe with a little less knowledge than the next person.
Mhm.
I distinctly remember having a you know, inferiority complex about not having a journalism degree
Mhm.
and being in newsrooms where people who that's all they went to school for was journalism, and they've been doing it, and they went to the best journalism schools in the world, and I just kind of talked my way into a job. Never, wherever you are, that's where you belong.
That's right.
That's what I have to tell them. Wherever you are, that's where you're supposed to
That's where
be.
you belong. And honestly, favor isn't fair.
It's
The
not.
Lord will open up doors. He will put you
It's
in
real.
rooms
Yes,
where the degree isn't necessary. The connections may be there, but ultimately he'll put you in a place to where you have to give him the glory. He's the only person that could have done that for you. And
exactly.
so we have to remember that, we're favored and we have gifts. And ultimately, these gifts that we have are to be utilized for the ones that we have to serve, whether it
Yes,
is in journalism, whether it is in EMR, whether it is in respiratory, whether it is in any other industry. We have gifts, and those gifts are supposed to be used to serve. So,
they are. They really are.
yeah, it's good stuff. So, this game is
Right.
called Pivot or Panic. So, this is how it works. Pivot basically says, and although I have the game, I have not read over these or anything.
Okay.
So we'll all be giving our answers, at the same time. But the pivot is going to be healthy growth and change. And then the panic means that it's an emotional reaction and pretty much like a fear response,
Okay.
right? So, the first scenario is quitting a job without a plan. You're going to pivot or
Pivot.
you're going to panic.
Without a
I
plan,
think
I
I would pivot. I would not panic because sometimes you need that time to not have a plan. Go back to faith, Tacoma. We gotta walk in
She's
faith.
like,
Ooh,
I don't
you
know
know
about
what? My 20-year-old self would pivot, but
Yeah.
at 50,
Yeah.
I'm panicking.
Yeah.
I got real grown bills now.
I get that. No.
I just
I
wouldn't
think it's
do
fair
it.
to say that it depends on where you are in life.
Listen, as flighty as I tend to be, and as yeah, I can't do that. But I'm gonna have something else lined up.
Mhm.
I'm gonna have something else lined up. When I think that one time that I did quit a job without a plan, which was being a reporter, my husband had a good job, so but I can't do that too. We got too many bills now. It's like I gotta have something lined up.
We got to be strategic.
Gotta
I
be
get it. I get it. I get it. Okay. Well, I said that it would depend on where I am in life, but
where you are in life.
yeah, at this point in age, I would probably pivot
Okay.
just right now, today.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So next, staying somewhere only because it's stable.
Pivot. You know me. I'm gonna say pivot.
Mhm.
Pivot.
Yeah,
Mm,
pivoting too.
pivot. Pivot on right on out of there.
You kind of touched on this earlier, Tacoma, but taking a pay cut for peace.
Pivot.
Yes. Yes.
Y-
Yes.
Yeah. I think all of us have the common denominator of, having multiple children. We all have more than one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That which we're not saying balance anymore because it's more of an alignment, but knowing kind of where we are to make sure that we are not sacrificing too much on the end with the children will make you take a pay cut for that
It will.
piece.
It really will.
Yeah. Applying for something that you don't fully qualify for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Men do it all the time.
Yeah. They do. They do. They do.
Make it rain,
Yeah.
Tacoma.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm definitely
Right.
gonna pivot
VP.
there.
I know how to ask questions. I'll get there.
Yeah. Right, right, right. Oh,
Phone a friend.
there you go.
Yep.
Outgrowing friendships after personal growth.
Oh, yeah.
Pivot.
Pivot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It happens.
Pivot.
I hate when it happens, though.
Yeah.
I hate when it happens, but it happens. It
There's
happens.
the morning phase that you talked about earlier, but in due season, due time, I will get over it. Whoever's supposed to be in your life right now, or whatever season you're in, will be there. And part of my prayer has always been to remove the ones that are not supposed to be.
That's so true. That's
Yeah.
rare.
Either way, we're good to go. We still want that
This
peace.
summer's gonna get smaller and smaller anyway.
Oh,
So the
tell me about it.
quality is so much more, so much more important than the quantity.
It is. It is. I can agree with you on that. Choosing flexibility over status.
Flexibility. Yeah, pivot.
I don't want status. I need flexibility.
Yeah.
And this one's easy, but starting over publicly.
Start over.
Yep. Pivot.
Mm-hmm. Pivot,
Yeah.
pivot.
Yeah, there was that question of like, would you work from home for 150,000 or whatever,
Mhm.
or go in the office for 250,000? And that was a hard question for me. I'm gonna lie. I have not been around a water cooler in a while, but it might be worth it.
Yeah.
But it would depend on traffic. I couldn't do it in Atlanta. Atlanta traffic is just too much.
Mm-hmm. It's become worse. It's
I
definitely
know.
it's
And
worse.
so crazy. It's
Yeah.
like all the time. And it was always all day, but now it's just like,
It don't matter.
yeah.
Yeah, because even when I'm from home, I just go up the street to grab me something to eat,
And it takes
and I'm like, I mean, is everybody working from home? Because what? I mean, how is it so packed at 11 o'clock? Like,
right.
I mean, lunch is barely started. So yeah, I completely understand that. So, whew, I think that we have spoken on a lot tonight. There's probably a lot more than one gem that has been dropped here. But if we had to leave something with our listeners based off of our topic of work, life, and the pivot in between, Tacoma, you have given us a great example of what a true pivot is, what alignment looks like for you, how faith is tied into that, and how to have a good look. I don't want to use that word balance because it's not, we've kind of defined that here, but how to basically just go through life and know who you are and get out of your own way. So what is something that you would leave with the listeners who are here tonight?
I would say a couple of things. Pivoting isn't failure. It is simply alignment. It's alignment. I think that is a big thought I would leave. Also, transferable skills are more powerful than you realize. And being able to communicate is a multiplier. So take whatever you're doing now, whatever you think you can do now, be able to communicate.
Say that again for the people in the back.
Yes, communication is a multiplier. So whatever it is you think you can do now, stack being an effective communicator on top of that, and you watch your money grow. Your money will multiply.
That's good. That's good. Melissa?
I don't know. I'm feeling I'm kind of feeling your words, Kristi. You have to manifest. Be okay with manifesting. Throughout Tacoma's stories, I feel like Tacoma, you manifested the woman you are today. And, it may be a different version of you, but I think it's the version of you that you're very proud of. And I think you're proud of every version you've been. And I think that as strong females, that's what we're supposed to do. Like, don't put the younger you down because it wasn't who you are today. Be proud of what you did in the past and what you learned from it because it's made you the woman you are today. That's awesome. Thank you. And you have a very inspiring story, Kristi. This was a fantastic time. It's awesome.
Thank you.
It's so inspiring. It's super inspiring. So I know that somebody's going to get something. One thing that I feel like we hit on, but I wanted to just kind of reiterate this slightly is in the midst of all of this pivoting, in the midst of stepping out on faith and trusting the Lord for whatever alignment looks like for you in your season, do not be worried about what other people think, feel, say about the pivots and the things that you are doing in your life, because we sometimes we don't make that step because we're worried about what it's going to look like. That can be family members, that can be close friends, that can be colleagues, whomever. Don't worry about what the people are saying. I think one of the hardest things in life is pretty much admitting that something no longer fits you, especially when everyone else thinks that it should. But growth will always interrupt comfort every single time. And maybe the pivot isn't necessarily proof that you have failed. It's actually proof that you have finally listened to yourself. You have got out of your own way and listened to yourself. So listen to yourself. Know that favor is not fair and be on your merry way.
Yeah, be on your merry way. That's so true.
Be on your merry way.
That reminds me, one last thing.
Yes, put it out there. Put it out there.
Because, one thing we didn't talk about, I do work for a major airline in Atlanta, my little part-time job. You know about it, Kristi. But I remember when I first got hired, I was a stay-at-home mom. I got hired this little part-time job, and I wanted the job for the flight benefits. And the job was working the ramp, putting bags under the planes. And I remember when I told people that I work for this airline and I work the ramp. And they were like, well, what do you do? And I was like, oh, I put bags under the plane. They were like, what? And this is after I had been a reporter,
Mm.
semi quasi celebrity, as Kristi might say.
Mhm.
I was putting bags under a plane and was happy to do it. And if I would have worried about what people thought, my children wouldn't have been able to fly all around the world.
That's right.
Um, to this day. And so that's so true when you said don't worry about it, because that's the one job that I was just kind of like, should I? And then I did it and it was so fun and
Mhm.
met some of the best people that I'm still friends with to this day.
Mhm.
And if I would have worried about what people thought, I would have blocked my own blessing and been in my own way.
Yep.
Don't worry about what somebody says.
Don't
So
worry
that
about it.
reminded me of one last little story. One
Yeah.
last hustle I got is my little airline.
Yeah. It's easier said than done,
Yeah.
but you have to be intentional about it. You really do. And when the thoughts come, what does he say? Captivate them, throw them out because they're
And
going
you
to come.
know why you're doing something.
Yeah,
Everybody else don't have to
they don't have to.
believe in it. You know why
Yep.
you're doing something.
There you
Yeah.
go. There you go. So I think that this was great and we landed on a great ending. So Tacoma, as Melissa has already stated, this story I think was perfect timing. We always love learning from our guests as well. And we love the authentic discussion and you definitely brought the authenticity. So thank you for saying yes. Thank you for being here tonight. And we definitely hope that our listeners have gained something. We know that they have. And when we hear the feedback, we'll be sure to share that with you.
Thank you.
Melissa, it's always a pleasure. So thank you for tuning in to Sis Let's Talk Leadership. Everyone have an amazing night. Bye.